show you how to do some things um might will not necessarily be the best way for you to get a hang of all of these things. Um, because you at some point there are so many things going on. You probably have work, have a family, and so sometimes you start forgetting the littlest of things in coding, in HTML, in CSS. But when you have something to look back to try to refresh your memory with, um, I feel like that way, when you forget things, you can easily go back to articles, to videos, and you do it. Yeah. So after this point, I think it will get to the point where you have to carry up a project. Probably you might see it on YouTube and decide to work on it, or you might just come up with a project on your own and make up a design to work with, and then you try to build it. Either ways, the essence of this is that for you to actually master or to get a good understanding of these things, you actually have to practice it along. You have to practice after class also to understand a little bit more of how these things are, and to experiment some other things on how you can maybe add some new features on things. That way you can better understand um, understand web design in a very short time. Um, so the thing is, another thing is also, if you do not actually practice these things, you find out that you might be struggling to understand this thing. It could take you a year, it could take you 2 years. You might find it so difficult to even make a navigation bar. But when you start practicing, you get used to those principles. Almost every site is the same way you build every site, right? So you're like repeating the same steps every time. And so it is only when you keep doing these things, you keep practicing it, you now get used to these things and you understand them for any site you want to take on. So once you want to start a new site, you know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to this is what I'm supposed to do, and you just do it. And from last class, we've been able to come this far in our project where we have our logo on the left hand side and our different navigations. And when you hover on them, you see the color changing. So far, or right now, it doesn't take us to any page. We didn't put any link to it. And then we added this image, this heading, paragraph, and button, and then this left hand side. So I would say it's almost looking like what we have here. It is almost looking like what we have here, but this is a good one. So far, this is where we've gotten to. And from our assignments, we're expected to complete this side to look like this, and also to make this hover button to add an hover effect such that when I hover on this button, it changes its color to this baby blue color here. So I won't be working on that here because you have to actually practice this thing to understand it. So it's an assignment that you will still be working on. Okay. So before I continue with today's class, I would just want to quickly try to solve Mr. Desion's small technical issue. So if you're ready, you can actually share your screen so we can walk through fixing that issue together. Mr. Desion, can you hear me? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Um, Mr. Desion, can you hear me? Let me be sure if it's network from your side. Okay, okay. I think you're muted if you're trying to speak. Uh, Hello, you're muted. You can unmute.
I can hear you from my side.
Okay, you can. Okay, you can hear me, right? But I can't hear him. Um, okay, okay. We have to keep going. Maybe after once we're done with the class, we can resume trying to fix that, so that we don't spend the entire time on this. Okay. So, like I said, we are this far into building our project, and we've actually talked about a lot of concepts on CSS, on HTML, and in subsequent classes, we'll find out that we'll be going over those principles also, because we'll be trying to fix other problems just the same way. And so would be seeing some of these principles or some of these properties, CSS properties, again and again and again, and then we can probably get used to them in the process of solving them. But so far, from our assets, our design, we have this to be the full site, and next up, we have this to be a design for the mobile. So we call this responsiveness in web design. So responsiveness is when you make sites that any device can actually log into that site and use your site properly. So if you log into google.com using your desktop, it has a different feeling or a different arrangement compared to when you log into google.com on your mobile phone. All right, they have their different looks. So that's what we call responsiveness. So once is a website um has can adjust its arrangements depending on the device you're using to access that site with, and we call that responsiveness. So from our site, how can we compare the responsiveness of our sites? All right, so we have to use the developers tool again, and like I told us about it before, we go through the inspect, right? So you right click and you scroll down to inspect. So once you go up to inspect, right, over here we have two icons. There is this and there is this other one here. This second one where you see a toggle device toolbar is what we use for responsiveness, right? But it is more advanced, right? It is more advanced, and so you might not really worry about using it for now. So when you do the thing I did now, once you go to this inspect, this is how it opens up for you, right? It will open up like this for you. So for me to be able to go to the responsiveness part, because right now I can also reduce the screen size to compare what it looks like. All right, and right now this is what it looks like on screen sizes of this, if you observe when I'm increasing the screen size, this there's a parameter here changing its value. That's the width, that's the measurement of the width of your screen. All right, so at this point the screen is one, let me do it again, 1115 pixel at this size, right? But this is not my laptop's full width. My laptop's full width is about 1104 1440 pixel. All right, that's my laptop screen size. Okay, so for me to actually increase this up to my screen size, because I can't do this now because I'm in developers tool, the width is restricted. And I have to come to this toggle device toolbar. So once I click on it, it now allows me I can now put in the width I want here. So I can now specify that I want 1440 pixel. So once you do enter, it adjusts your screen. So this screen is now exactly my laptop screen size. All right, so this is what the site will look like on my my laptop. All right, this is what it looks like already on my laptop. Okay, so if you want to see what it looks like on other devices, right, right here where you see dimensions responsive, you can click on it, and then you see different devices coming out, right? So you can come to edit and edit a size that you want for probably your mobile screen size, the height and the width, right? But now if I choose iPhone SE, this is what our site looks like currently on iPhone SE. So if I host my sites right now, and then somebody that uses iPhone SE logs in to this site to access it, this is what they will see. And this is not good. This is not, it's not nice to anybody's eye. Right? It's like, it's embarrassing that somebody goes to your site and sees this. So right now, this goes on to say our screen is not responsive enough because it has to look good in every screen size. And right now, it only looks good in our normal screen size, desktop screen size. Okay, you can experiment with other devices. This is iPhone 12 Pro, iPhone X Arrow. There is Samsung Galaxy S8 and the rest of them. Okay, so now today's class will be more about how we can make our sites responsive. Okay, how we can make it responsive based on the design. So right now, I'm going to restrict the responsiveness to just one bit size. Okay, so I want to restrict it to iPhone XE, which is about 375. And if you go to our code and go to our style guide, you can see the suggestion for screen sizes. When they were talking about mobile screen size, they said 375 pixel. That's what we should use, right? So that confirms this screen size, this iPhone SE screen size. Okay, so I'm going to leave my screen here so I can see the changes I'm making as things goes on. So I might decide not to go that way. I can decide to just reduce my screen from this. Right, it's still the same thing. All right, so it depends on how best you understand the tool. All right, so with use as you constantly use them, you get a different way of using each of these tools um to checkmate your site. Okay, okay. So now let me reduce the screen size to three. Okay, this is less than 375, but it's about that same um height. Okay, same width rather. Okay, so now how do we write codes for a particular screen? Okay, so going back to our style.css, remember all this style we've been writing, all this css we'll be writing from our first class. All right, that's what made our sites look like what it is right now. Okay, so it means those code we'll be writing were for our desktop sizes. Okay, So it means we have to signify or let our VS Code or browser know that we want to write a different set of CSS codes, but this one should only apply for a screen that has a maximum width of 375. So for 375 down to maybe 100 pixel and the rest, we want to write a different set of CSS code for it. Okay, so first let me reduce my screen. So how do we do that? So after writing your code for desktop, after writing your code for your desktop, you come down here and then you have to show that you're writing a different set of code. So how do you do that? So you write media rather at media this. Um, the thing is you can't get this right now. But let me start again. So the code to show that I want to write CSS for a particular width is you write at media, then space, screen, space, and space, normal brackets. So in these brackets, you now write the screen size you want to consider. So I want to consider a screen size of maximum of 375 pixel, which means 375 pixel should be the highest that this CSS code will take place. If if I access the site with any screen size higher than 375, this CSS that I want to write should not affect it. That's what maximum width means. So once I write maximum width, then I use column and I specify 375 pixel. So this is where I specify the width size that I want for this. Then I say curly brackets. So whatever CSS I write between these curly brackets, between this open and close curly brackets, will only affect screen sizes of that has a maximum width of 735. How do we do that? Let's test first. So I want to change the body. The body, I want to change the background. I want to give it a background color of black. All right. So I'm just trying to test my code for now. So what I'm doing here is that I'm saying when my screen size is at 375 pixel, I want the body to have a background color of black. That's what this line means. Okay, so now if I go to my screen, you see it's now black. The background color is black because right now the width here on my Chrome is saying 342. Okay, so if I increase it, watch this number here as it increases. Once I increase it past 375, you see that the background color goes back to what it used to be. Okay, so this is how we write responsive code. Okay, so this tells you now that whatever CSS code I'll be writing inside here, not outside, because if I put this, if I take this outside my curly brackets, okay, if I take this outside, it is now outside this width as specified, so it won't work for this width anymore. It will work for the normal desktop width, and that's why if I refresh now, um okay, so it's now doing for the entire width, right? It's not doing for everything to be, so whether it is small or big, it is still doing for everything. Okay, so that's why you don't write outside the curly brackets, it should be inside, but I don't need this for now. Okay, so before I start making changes, is there anything that wasn't really clear from what I just did now, so I can go over it again before we continue, before we start making changes for our site to look like what we have here? Is there anything that didn't come off right to you? Anything that didn't um you think is a little bit confusing? Okay, okay. So now moving on. So what you do now next up is you have to observe your desktop design, which is this, and your mobile design to see the changes you need to effect, the changes you need to make. So starting from our navigation, we see here in our desktop that this space we called padding here was very big as of the desktop screen, but going back to the mobile screen, you see it became very small, right? So this should be the first thing you need to consider, because right now in our screen we can still see that it has a very big padding. Okay, so where did we make that change? We have to look for it. Okay, so we made that change here by giving the body a margin of 40 pixel top and bottom and 80 pixel left right. Okay, so if you don't know how that came about, you have to inspect this. When I click on this and I inspect I inspect this. Okay, let me go here. So when I click on body, you see this orange background showing you that there's a margin there, right? And coming down, you see it here. Right on this, you can see a margin top and bottom of 40, left and right of 80. So that is letting us know that what is causing this space is the margin. So we have to reduce this margin for this to look like this, for the spacing to look like that, right? So how do we do that? So since we made that change in the body, we have to make the change again to the body in this screen. So inside here, we now write body because we want to make that change to the body. The same thing we did there. So we want to change the margin property. So the margin, we want to make it, so let's reduce it to probably, let's say, for the top and bottom, let's make it 10 pixel. Then for the left and right, let's make it 5 pixel. All right. So this is the same thing we've been doing all this while, writing your CSS. The way you write your CSS doesn't change at all. So the way we wrote it here, we selected the tag we want to effect a change, and then we wrote the property and gave it each parameter or value that we want it to have. That's the same thing we are doing over here. The only difference now is that we are specifying that this CSS right now would only affect device width of 375. Okay, so now when I save this and I go back to my screen, you can see it has reduced its width already. You can see everything is now close to the wall. So which means the space is very small compared to what we have here. So we can now change this value. So let me say the top and bottom should be 20 pixel, but the left and right should be 10 pixel. This should be okay for me. And so now the spacing is now fine. So if I increase my screen, you can see the spacing increases. But once I reduce down to 375, it reduces that space. Okay, so we've written one media query code or one responsive code for now. So that is one. So when we're done with that, you have to move on to another thing, the navigation. So you notice that in your mobile screen, all you have at the top is the logo by the left and this menu icon by the right, right? But on the desktop, you have the logo on the left, then all of the navigations by the right. Okay, so this should be our next change to effect, right? So it means when we are on mobile screen, we want to remove the navigation and put in this button, this menu button. Okay, so from our current code or our current website, we have this navigation locking here. So we have to remove it. Okay, so let's see how we can make this effect or make this change. So we can make this change using CSS. All right. Right now we are based on CSS. We're not going to JavaScript. We're not into the main programming right now. So remember those navigations are there because of this nav we have here. Okay. So what we can do is on mobile screen we can make this disappear. Okay. So how do we do that? On our normal desktop, we don't have the nav styled at all. So what we can do is over here we can see nav should have a display of none. So when you give anything a display of none in CSS or HTML, it takes it out of your screen automatically. So once I save this, let's just see it if it actually works. So right now, going back to my screen, you can see that we can no longer find the navigation on our screen. So once I increase this screen past 375, it appears again. But once I go back, it takes it off automatically. Okay. So and you might be asking why I had to take it off. Like, doesn't it spoil the site because we might need to use it again? Yes, we might need to use it, but for us to have this effect where when we click on this, then it brings it up like this. We have to take it out first, right? This can be a different component entirely in our screen that we have to bring in, right? So that's why I'm taking it off for now. So we won't be able to see it in our mobile screen, but on our desktop, we'll see it. Okay, so it doesn't change in our HTML. It is still there. We don't take it out in our HTML. Okay, it's still there. So now what we want to be here is that menu, this menu. We usually call it the hamburger in coding. All right. So we need this to be there. So we have to make it. Usually, the way we make these things is we use a button, and then inside the button we use an icon for that. Okay. For trying to introduce um more, should I say, more complicated ways to be is not needed right now. So we just use this icon for now because usually we use external libraries for our icons. But for now, we are just going to use this. So from our images folder, this icon menu SVG represents this icon we are trying to look for. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a button, and we are going to create it here. Button. Okay. Then inside this button, we are now going to use call this image, this main image, using the img tag. Okay, so is um the source should be images slash or dot slash images. Okay, assets first. You have to go to assets first, then images, then icon menu entity. So in the alt, we'll just say hamburger. I am hamburger button. Yeah, this is fine. So once I save this now and I go back to my code, you can now see the icon there, right? But now, um, take note that what we did here, what we did here is that in our HTML code, we introduced a new tag, a button. So which means if we increase this size, we'll still see it in our code, in our website. All right. So we are not supposed to have this on our desktop. Okay. We're not supposed to have this on our desktop view. We are only expected to have it when we are in the mobile view. Okay. So how do we fix this small problem. So how we can fix it is that in our style.css, before we come to our media screen, we have to make it disappear here in our desktop view. How do we do that? Let's give this a name. Let's give this a class. I'll give this a class of, let's say, menu button. Menu button. Um, what I did here is I'm trying to join two words together. Menu is a word, button is another word. So I'm trying to join the two of them together. So I'm using dash because in CSS we don't use separate classes. Otherwise, it's two different classes. So if you want two words to give it to form one singular word, it's either you join them together like this menu button, or you separate them using dash or underscore. So for now, I'm using dash. So menu button. So in style.css, I'm going to say dot menu button should have a display of none because this code I'm writing here would only work for the desktop screen, while this ones over here will work for the mobile screen. Okay. So now if I refresh now, you can see that it is not there anymore. Why? Because all I did was all I did was say it should have a display of none. But now inside here, I'm also supposed to say it should now have a display of block inside here because right now it is not showing at all. Okay, so when we get to this media screen, I want my menu to now show. So I'll say dot menu button should have a display of block. So now when I reduce my screen, you can now see that it's showing on medias on mobile device, but on large screen it is completely out of sight. Okay, so this is how we make things responsive. Okay, so this is just the little things we do for responsiveness in site. So it's all about changing um, your previous code. All right, just changing some properties to fit what you want to get. So right now, this is what we have for that button. This is what we have for the button, which is looking a little bit different from what we have currently. It's looking a little bit different. If I'm to zoom in so you can see this. So this is what it looks like right now. It has some sort of border around it and has a background color. So I want to take out this default behavior of the button because the default behavior in HTML is that it has a border and has a background color of that looks like gray. Okay. So if you don't know the properties that are causing that, all you can do is click on this button and then click on this button to inspect it. So once I click on button, it highlights it. Then down here, let's see if we can find it. Okay, we can't find it here. Okay, we can't find it here because it's by default. So it's not a code that we wrote by ourselves. So that's why we can't find it. But the default style is the background color of gray and then a border. So it means we can change that by coming here. So right now you can do that. You can decide to do it here or you can decide to do it here. Okay, it will work for either of them as long as we don't change the property. What I'm trying to say is, okay, let me do the two styles. So this one here, remember, is the one I said is for the mobile. So if I do it here and I say I want the border to be transparent and I want the background color to be transparent, and I save this. Coming down here, you see that it is out, even though even though the code I wrote was for the desktop 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 screen, right? You can still see that it's still affected here. How can we explain this? How we can explain it is that because we made the property here, it means for now all sizes for all screen sizes, this property will take effect. Except I come down here and I decide to change this particular property, then it will not be different from mobile screen. But because I'm not changing it, it will continue to have that particular one for all screen sizes. So it is only when I now come down inside my media screen and I change this property that it will not change those properties when it is down in a mobile screen. I I hope I'm not confusing anyone. I hope I'm not confusing anyone with those terms. But if you're not clear, you can call my attention again so I can go over this over what I just did now. Are we good? Um
Yes, from my hand, well, I would say I'm just getting along with it gradually. Maybe if I watch the video again, I'll be able to get these parts
okay,
properly.
okay,
But at least I'm just following gradually.
all right. One second. Okay, okay. So right now, we've been able to write CSS code for our mobile device. All right, and what this effect did is that it reduced margin on the entire screen. That is one. Secondly, it took out the navigations that were here initially. Two, and thirdly, it made the button look exactly like we want by taking out the border around it and the background color, and so it now looks like what we have here. But all of those things we did couldn't make this the button perform or take action like it's supposed to. So by so by right, when I click on this button, it is supposed to bring up this this modal or this navigation over for us like this. Okay. And then when I click on this close button also, it's supposed to close and come back to this. But right now, it is not giving us that effect or that interactivity. Okay. That is because we need actual programming to make this effect. So in other words, we need JavaScript. All right. So we will not be able to make that effect until we introduce JavaScript. So we are going to stop on the button for now. Then when we introduce JavaScript, you can now see how we can use JavaScript to manipulate our website to work completely like it is supposed to work here. But otherwise, we have to continue with the remaining sites, remaining sites. Okay. So up next is this area. Now we are now into this area. So in our mobile screen now, this is what we have. We have this image, this heading, and this blue part of it to the right. But in our mobile device, we have the image here, and directly under it we have the heading, and directly under it the paragraph, the read button, and then this background. So we have to look for a way to bring this um this new hydrogen versus electric cars under here. Okay, we have to look for a way to bring it under here. And if you remember from when we were trying to make that in our index, we did that using this this main component div. So if I open main component div, you have this part and you have this part with this first part representing everything here. That's this image, this heading, this paragraph, and button. Okay. And then this other part, defining new, represents uh, this part here that we want to be under. Okay. And then we went further to make this main content a flex, which means the two children inside of it, we can easily arrange them in one direction, either horizontally or vertically. Right, that's what Flexbox does for you. It helps you arrange the children of the particular content horizontally and um, um, vertically. So right now, and normal desktop view, it is arranging them or aligning them horizontally, and that is why let me switch to responsive so I can uh, sorry. So right now, um, this is what it looks like on mobile screen. Okay, this is the horizontal flow right now. You can see that this container is here and then this one is here. Okay, horizontally. So what I want is I want this new hydrogen versus electric cars to come under this, which means I want to actually control them vertically now, no longer horizontally. Okay, and by default, um, Flexbox arranges your children horizontally. So it means all I have to do is change the flex direction from horizontal and make it vertical. So how do I do that? I do that by taking notes that the parent container that has the flexbox is main content, right? So in our style.css, we would look for main content here. This is main content, and this is where I made this a display of flex. And because it is a flex, by default, it's arranging the children horizontally. So it means all I have to do is come down inside my media screen and say main content. What I want now is I want to change the flex direction. Take note of the property I'm trying to change now. So the property I want to change is the flex direction. And now different options comes. You see column, and if I go down to column reverse, you see the meaning of it here, what it does here. If I come down to row, it shows you row is the same thing as horizontal. So what I want instead is column because I don't want them to be horizontal anymore. I want them to be vertical. So once I choose column, it will now place the two children under each other. So now when I reduce my screen to 375, you can now see that that new hydrogen is no longer on the right hand side. It is now down under this, which is good. Okay. So the only problem I'm having now is that this image is now taking the entire width of the screen, thereby making my site look like it shouldn't. It's kind of overflowing because the screen should end over here, but it's now overflowing. Okay. So it means I have to also work on that. But aside that, I like that it is now um, arranged in columns. Okay, so this might not do it for that. So let me use another explanation. So here in index.html, this is a new file I want to create. Um, what I want to do is I want to explain flex properly because this is something we would use and you would use every day in building a project. So first, I want to have a container, a div container, and I will give it a class of, let's say, text. All right. Inside this container, I want to have four boxes. But for me to have four boxes, I have to make those boxes myself. I will use divs to make them, and then I will give this a class of, let's say, box. Okay. So let me copy and paste this four times. Okay. So right now, um, if I just open this up on my browser, you would see that there's nothing to actually see there because they don't. There's no style for them right now. All I've done is write a HTML code for it. Okay. I still have to style it using CSS. So once it opens up, is I'm trying to use an edit a what is it called? An extension called Lifesaver that lets me run my site so I can see them. If I open it up, this is it now. It is blank. Okay, because all I did is create containers, but there's nothing inside. All right. So I have to come to style.css and style them. This is a different style of CSS, different from a normal project. Okay, I'm just trying to run this. So let me take out these styles. And now let me style the boxes first. So the box, I want them to have a width of, let's say, 100 pixel and a height of 100 pixel Okay. Then I want them to have a background color of, let's say, aqua. Then let me give them a margin of, let's say, 2 pixels. So there's a space between each of the boxes. Okay, so what I've done now is I'm styling each of these boxes. So because they all have the same class of box, and I've styled box to be this, they will all have this property. So now when I go back, you now see four boxes. Let me zoom in. You now see four boxes here. Okay, but they have small spaces between them. It's margin of 2 pixels. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to make um I want to make this parent container a flex box so that I can be able to control each of these boxes in one direction, either horizontally or vertically. So it means I have to make this container a flex, and I've already given this a flex, a class of flex. All right. So it means I will now come to my style.css and I say dot flex. I want it to have display of flex. So once I do this, it makes this container that I've given class of flex to be a flex box. And by default, a flex box arranges its children horizontally. So if I go back to my site, you now see that the boxes are now arranged horizontally. They are no longer vertical like they used to be before. Okay. And so now if I want to change it to um vertical, okay, if I want to change it to vertical, it means I'll have to change the flex direction. I'll come down here and say flex direction should be column. And when I save this, it now takes them back to vertical. So this is just what we did. This is exactly the same thing we've done here. All right. The same principle we've used here that we've used in this place. Okay. So that's how powerful Flexbox is. It allows you arrange or control children of the container in one direction, either horizontally or vertically. Okay. So with that done, the next thing we need to do is this image. If you take keen observation, you see that this image is different from this image. This image is more of a rectangle, but this one is a square, a perfect square. Okay, so it means in the desktop view, the image used here is different from the image used here. Okay, and I'm sure we know how to do this already. It means we are going to remove this image when we get to mobile view, all right, and put in the other one, and then this other one in mobile view it will be there, but when it comes to desktop view, we'll take it out. Okay, so this is a principle or a method we've used to fix something before now. All right, so we are just talking about it again. So how do we do that? Let's go back to our code, our HTML. Let's open up defining text. So this is the image, right, that shows that we are using right now. So we need to introduce another image for. So this Web3 is the one we used for the desktop, all right? So what we want now is this other small one. This other small one. As you can see, they're different. This is big and this is small. So we are going to import that here also. So instead of me writing all of this long code, I can just copy and paste this. Okay. So now I will change this from desktop to mobile. Okay. So if I save, so right now all I've done is I'm bringing in the second image too. So it means if I go to my screen, I would see that image there, and this other one too is there also. Okay. But this is not what I want. What I want instead is for this other one, this one at the top to go. So how do I make it go? Let me give this a class of retro desktop. I'm giving the image itself a class desktop, and then I'll give this one retro mobile to signify which is supposed to be for the desktop and to signify which is supposed to be for the mobile. Okay. So now I'm now going to style this one to be visible in my mobile view, in my desktop view, but in my mobile view, it should disappear. Okay. So first, let me take this class, retro desktop. So in my style of CSS, I won't effect any change here because I want it to be here. But in my mobile view, I'm going to say retro desktop should have a display of none. So when I save this now, I go back. You see that it has gone out of our screen. It is no longer here in our screen. It is now the mobile view one that is here. Okay, but when I increase it now, it comes back. But it comes back with this one, which we don't want because we've not removed this in our mobile view. So we have to do the same thing. So in our desktop view now, we would say retro mobile to have a display of none. But in desktop view, retro mobile should have a display of, let's say, block. And let's save this. So now in mobile view, it is out. This one is here. So in desktop rather, when I now reduce the screen to our mobile screen, the other one goes off, leaving this um leaving this here alone for us, which is good. Which is good. Okay. So next up would be this side, this heading and paragraph. So on desktop view, they are horizontal, but in mobile view, you can see them that they are in column. So it's almost like the same thing we'll be doing is repeating itself here. Because if we go to our HTML and we go to, let's open up defining title. we have this H1 and this div. So let's see the styling we did for defining title. If you go to style.css and we look for defining title, here you see we gave it a display of flex, which means a display a flex direction of column. That's all we have to do. Um, defining title. Okay. So in our mobile view, we want defining title to have a flex direction of column. So instead of being horizontal, it will no longer be horizontal, it will now be in column. And that's it. So you can now see it being here in column. But I'm having a serious problem of overflowing. How do I know it's overflowing? As you can see, if I hover on body, I don't know if you can see this properly, but the side highlighted blue is on the left hand side, and every other thing outside it shows that it is bigger than the screen. Okay, so this is how you know that uh, your objects are overflowing. So my heading seems to be overflowing, my paragraph seems to be overflowing. There are lots of things overflowing and not taking the original width they are supposed to be taken, right? Which is a problem because I have to now inspect these things one after the other to find out what exactly is causing these problems. So if I start with my images, I click on my images, I see that there's a width of 100%. If I try to take out the width of 100%, it doesn't really make any effect, right? So let me inspect something else. Let me inspect the heading. It doesn't seem to be here. Paragraph. No. Okay. None of these things seems to show what is actually causing this overflow. So let me troubleshoot. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to try to do now is I'm going to try to reduce the width of almost everything. I'm going to try to reduce the width of the image, the width of the heading, the width of the paragraph. All of them, I'm going to reduce the width one after the other and see if it will make any change. So I'm going to start with the image first, and the image is retro mobile. So I'm going to say give this a width of let's say 300 pixels. Okay, doesn't seem to make any change. Let me see if I can refresh it. Okay, nothing seems to change here. Let's check what is going on. Okay, so because I gave this defining text image a width of 100% in the desktop, is overshadowing the retro mobile we just did now. So it means instead of changing that image from this, I'm going to change it from what the CSS code I wrote correctly. CSS code I wrote is I can't find it. Okay, here, defining text image. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this one off. Yeah. So I'm going to paste this here and change the width from 100% to 300 pixels. And now when I do my image, it reduces its size to 300 pixels now. Okay, so that is one. So next up, I'm going to try to reduce the width of this heading. I can decide to reduce the size itself or the width that it contains. Okay, so like I've been saying, there is not one way of doing this thing. All right. So the method I'm using now, when you want to do yours, you might not necessarily have to follow this method I am using. Okay. So how do you make this change? So let's inspect it. H1. So it has a font size of 50 pixel. It doesn't have any width of its own. So I'm going to come down and say I want to change my H1. I want to reduce the font size first of all. So let's say 24 pixel, and then I'm going to give it a width 100%. Okay, I don't like 100%. So let me give it a width of 40 of let's say 200 pixel. Okay, so you can see 200 pixel it reduces the width, not just the size of the font, the width that our H1 contains. And so if I hover on it now, I can see the width has reduced. So up next will be this paragraph. Okay. So let me try to reduce the width of this paragraph and see if it's okay. First, I have to reduce defining title as a whole. It seems like the width is just out of this world. So defining title, which is this, I'm going to come down. I already have it here. So I'm going to reduce the width. So let's give it a width of say 300 pixel, right? So on refreshing, you can now see that it has reduced its width. But I can still see an overflow here, which means there is something actually causing this overflow that we don't know yet. Okay, so when I move my pointer down up to this place, defining text, you can see defining text is highlighting this entire screen of view. Okay, and it has a width of 700 pixels. So if I take that 700 pixel out, you can see that it reduces my screen drastically down to what it should actually be. So it means all of these problems we've been facing was as a result of this width we specified for defining text. Okay, so this is how you inspect or debug your code, trying to find out the problems one after the other. And when you find out the problem, you can undo every other thing that that didn't affect or make any change. So over here where we specified width to be 700 pixel, I'm going to try to review that. Uh, so the width, I'm going to let me first try 100% to be 100% of screen. So on giving it 100%, let me refresh. Okay, so you can see that my screen is no longer scrolling, is no longer overflowing or doing anything. So that is good. So I might try to undo some of these things I did by giving these things width because it's not nice to give them width. Um, so let me undo them first of all. Okay, okay, this is good. So I've undone all of the width changes that I had to do here, and so far I think it's okay. Okay. So now, one tiny bug also is that every other every other content seems to be here, seems to have this width from here to here, but this new content, this blue, navy blue, seems to take a width more than the normal, which means it has its own width. And if I highlight on it, you can see it has a width of 350 pixels. So on taking it out, you can now see that the screen has a um normal size like it should. It has the patterns where it should. It has everything touching the edge, and it is not scrolling. So which means I have to remove the width I gave to this, right? And looking for where I gave that width was in defining new. So look for okay here is where I specified the width. So I'm going to try to remove the width now by copying this code and pasting it here. You don't have to copy and paste. For you to get a proper understanding of these things, you have to write your code properly from scratch to end so you can understand them, use, repeated use. So for me right now, I'm just copying so I can be fast with my code. So I don't need the background color. I'm not going to change the background color, so I'll take it off. I'll take the height and padding off. So I will only make the width 100%, which means 100% of the screen. So right now, um, my screen now looks good. Okay. It seems like this is still overflowing. So 100% didn't do it. So what I can do is, let's say, I'll give it a maximum. Let me try giving it a maximum width of 370 pixel. So which means it shouldn't have a width greater than 750 on 370 pixel. Well, that doesn't seem to be working for it either. So let me see what we can do over here. Uh, since these ones are not working, let me see. Let me try to unset its value. So unset works. So I'm going to try onset. So what I did is I'm changing the values here in my browser first, and it's working. But once I refresh, you will see that it will go back to where it used to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it to my code directly by changing the width to onset, which means I'm trying to onset whatever property I've given to this before. It should go back to a default value. And yeah, right now it works perfect. My screen no longer overflows. And so with this, I've been able to resize everything to take proper shape on mobile, and the screen is not overflowing in any form. So all I have to do now is put a space, a small space between this button and this. Okay. But there are lots of why there are different ways to do this. You need to understand that these items are in a flex box, right? And there's a very simple way to do this in a flex box. The simple way is that you can give it a gap. Okay, what I mean is this: in our HTML code, all of those contents, um, the first is this defining text, and the second is defining new, and they are both inside main content, which is a flex box. So all I have to do is give a gap in main content because it's a flex box, right? So if I give it a gap, it means it will automatically put a space that I have specified. All right. So if I go back to style the CSS and I look for main content, all I have to do is give this a gap. So let me say I need a gap of 10 pixels and I save. So I'm going back, you now see a space here. So all I have to do now is compare this to what I have on my design. And this is what I have on my design. Okay, this looks good. But I need more spacing here because what I have right now is just 10 pixels. right here. So I would increase this 10 pixel to probably 50 pixel. It might not be enough, but I want to keep it there. So once I go back, you can now see the huge space or the huge gap that now differentiates this first section from this second section. So it's just these few things we've changed. We've been able to change our sites from looking like this on desktop view. Let me reduce the zoom. From looking like this on desktop view to looking like this on mobile view. So now, whenever anyone tries to access our site using an iPhone SE screen, okay, so this is what responsiveness is. This is how to make your site responsive, and you do it in media queries. So, so aside that, the remaining things should be trying to effect the same changes for this one. On desktop view, this is how they are. They are horizontal, right? But on mobile view, they were stacked vertically, one on top of another. And from last week's assignment, you were supposed to work on this, even though we were not supposed to work on it in full, it wasn't compulsory, but just to test yourself on this, you were supposed to work on it. So, but no problems if you didn't work on it. These few minutes we have, I'll try to go do a little bit on it, and wherever I stop, you would have to continue from it. So, but before I continue, I would like questions because we've talked about a couple of things, we've discussed about a lot of things, and so I would need you to bring in your questions if you have any, and so we can fix them before moving on. Any questions? And if you don't have any question, you can confirm that you don't have any question, so we can move on to other things. I think I took back the bits of the heading of the H1 so you can get. I think it looks more like the design. So yeah. So if there's no question, you can confirm that you don't have any questions. So we can move on to the next thing. Okay. Okay. So we have to move on to the last section, which is this part, right? Okay, so if you check well over here, the same set of styling for this first component is the same set of styling that was used for this same component, and the same set of styling that was used for this. The only difference are the contents, right? Like this is 01, this is 02, and this is 03. This is reviving retro PCs. This is top 10 laptops of 2022. And this is the growth of gaming. Likewise, the images are different as well. Okay. So it means the same structure we would use for this would be the same structure we use for this and this. So what we can do here is try to create one, then replicate it 3 times, and then change the value. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. For HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, this is like a lot of work because you have to add code these things from start to finish. For in more advanced frameworks like React, it is very easy to just create a component once and then you just call it a couple of times, as many times as you want it to appear, and it should do that automatically for you. With time, we'll get there. So I'm not going to complete this. Like I said, for us, you have to complete it on your own. All I'm going to do now is work on one of these, and let's see how we go. So back to my HTML. Remember, we are still inside this main. Okay. For now, we will be outside main content. As main content is everything showing up here. Okay. So we'll start again from desktop view first. This is desktop view. Okay. So I want them to be under this. Okay. So I would come outside my main content and create a new div, and then I'll give it a class. So now, what class can I use for this section? You- Remember, you have to be creative with your class names, and also your class names have to be descriptive also. So I'm just going to say, um, let's give this, um, let's say main options. So I'll give this main underscore options as the class. Okay, so that styling it will be very easy for me. And then inside there, I'm going to have my first container or my first component. So inside this div is where I'm going to create everything for this one, right? So what I need in this div is I need an image here, and then I need another container holding this this heading, this paragraph, and this paragraph. Okay. From my active state, it looks like this is a link because when I hover on it, it has to change its color from navy blue to this red. So those are what I need from it. So inside this div, I'm going to first have an image. Okay. Then after the image, I'm going to have a div container for the rest. So inside the div, I'm going to have a H1 that says the H1 should say 01. Copy. Let me copy this and paste it here. And then I would have a link after a link. Remember, href is very important. So the link should say reviving retro pieces. Okay, I'll paste this here. And after my link, I'm going to have a paragraph that says what happens when OTs are given modern upgrades. Okay, so this is my HTML structure for it. So let me see what it looks like now. This is what it looks like. So let me add up this image. Okay, so to add that image, remember all I have to do is put the parts here. And from here, um, this retro pieces is the image I need for that. So I'm going to put in the parts now. Yeah. So the parts would be dot slash assets images and then image retro pieces. Now give it an alt of retro pieces. And I save. So going back, we now have this. We have the image which looks like it has the exact width I want it to have. We have the heading, we have the link, and we have this paragraph. So all that I have to do now is to make it look exactly like this. Okay. Okay. Going back. Remember that this div has two items inside, and they are not supposed to be they are not supposed to be vertical. They're supposed to be aligned horizontally. So it means I can make this div, I can easily make it a flex box in order to have its contents aligned horizontal to each other. So I would give this a class, and I'll give it a class of option. Okay. So remember, I want to start with my desktop design first. the styling should start from desktop first. Then later on, I can come back to mobile design. So in my options options class, I'm going to give this a display of flex and also give it a gap because there is supposed to be a small space between the image and this container. So I'm going to give it a gap of, of 10 pixels, right? So now when I make that change, let me check what I've done. So I don't see any change being affected here. So let's see what the problem could be. Okay, so what I'm starting here is options, right? But remember the class I gave to this was option. So all I have to do is remove this S and save. So going back, you now see the image on the left, and then you have your the rest of the things on the right hand side. Okay, so next up would be um, trying to control the width of this container. I want it to have a fixed width. I mean my options container. So I can measure this to say the width should be about 300 pixels. So let me give this a width. Let me say maximum width should be 300. Let's say 375 pixels. Okay, so I'm saying it shouldn't expand more than 375 pixels, and that is what it has right now. Okay, so next up, what I have to do next would be from the design would be to reduce the height of our image. Okay, so I would say inside option, I want to take this image and reduce its height. So to do that, I would say option. Inside option, I want image, any image inside option to have a height of, let's say, um, let me reduce it very to a small height of 80 pixels first. So this is very, very small. So I'm going to increase it again now to, let's say, 200 pixels. If this is too big, we'd have to reduce it a little bit less and just compare our values. Okay, this looks perfect for me for now. So I'm going to continue from here. So all that I have to do now is to make sure that this text goes from up down to bottom, right? Um, should be aligned properly, basically. Right, there should be no space on the bottom and the top. Instead, the space should be here. Okay, so I can do that by making sure that this div is a flex box, and then the items inside of it are spaced, are justified with space between. So it takes the space on that container, either on the top and bottom, and then it puts it in between each of the items inside that container. So I'm going to give this a class first of, let's say, option details. Okay, so I'm going to say option details. So now come option details. I'm going to give this now a display of flex. But remember, when you give something a display of flex, it makes everything horizontal. So right now, you see these are horizontal, but I don't want it to be horizontal. I want it to be vertical. So I would have to change the flex direction from horizontal by saying the flex direction should be column. And then I will now make the justified content to be space between. Okay, so this I say should be perfect, but I sense that there might be a little bit of issue because the parent container option doesn't have a fixed height. Okay, but let's see if you fix it that. Okay, it fixes that. So let me check this. Uh, I can see I can see a margin top and bottom here on this paragraph, but we'll get to fix that later. So it fixes that, so I can go on to the next. So what I should do next should be to change the color of this heading, to change the font width of this link and the color, and then this paragraph. I think that's all I have to do here. So to do that, I would have to target this H1, which is in option details. So there's no need giving this a class because it is inside option details. So I can use option details as its landmark to get that H1 by saying I need you to go inside option details and then get me the H1. So now that H1, I want you to change the color. Okay, so I can't really say what color exactly this is, but it looks like it has the same color as this one. This paragraph we used there, and the color we used there should be okay. Let's go to our style guide to see our colors. There is off white, there is grayish blue, there is dark grayish blue, um, which doesn't really look like this, but I'm going to try them one after the other because the other time we tried off white, it was completely white. So let's try grayish blue by taking this color code. And now in my style.css, I'm going to say the color for H1 should be this. Then I want the font to have a particular width, or font weight should be, let's make it 700, which is bold. And I save. So that's good. So now the next one would be the link. Okay. So I would say down here, I would say option details. Then I want it to take the link. And now I want it to have the color of, back to our style guide. We have this very dark blue. So I'm going to take that color and paste that here. I want to increase the font. I want to increase the font size also. So I'll say the font size should be about 20 pixels, and then give this a particular font weight of, I don't want it to be bold, so I'll give it maybe semi bold of 600. So the remaining would be options paragraph, which is this. Okay, and this is what it should look like. So going back to our code in style.css, I would say option details paragraph. I want it to have a font size of 16 pixels, which is the normal. And then, but I want to remove the margin because it has the margin top and bottom, so giving that extra space. So taking it off, let's check it out. So taking it off, this is what now we have. Um, Let me close all of this and compare it first. So this is what we have, which isn't looking exactly like this because the spaces here is quite smaller than what is here. Okay, so I think this spaces is as a result of the size of this image. So let's try to reduce the image one more time and see if it reduces. So if I make it 150, let's see. Okay, it reduces the image and the spacing thereof. And so I think I'm okay with this, which is looking which is looking okay. So what is remaining is the color of this text should be the same as this. Okay. So all I have to do is copy this color code for my H1 and I paste it for my paragraph. Okay, so this color code now has the same as this and everything. So we now have one of these created. All that is remaining is to have this other one created. So the easy thing to do here is to copy this entire container 3 times and change the value in each of those 3 places. Okay, and then we have to make this a flex box. So to do that, I will copy this 3 times. Let me just give a space to where each of them starts and ends. And I'm going to change each of the images first. So for the second one, I need this image. So let me see if I can find that image. I think that should be 2 laptops, image top laptops. Uh, yeah, that should be image top laptops. Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to change this value from image retropix to image top laptops. Um, I'm going to change the alt also as top. Remember what you said about this alt. It's not like it adds anything to your code. It's just a description for your image. So this should be 02. And instead of reviving, um, this should be top 10 laptops of 2022. I'll paste this here. Go on to the next. I'll copy this and I'll paste this here. This is all I need to do. Remember, I didn't change the classes because the same styles that were affected here are the same styles I want to have here. So I didn't change the classes. All I changed were the content. I didn't change this third one, which is what we're doing next. But I want to show us to see that yes, the values changed. So as you can see, the values for this one has changed to what we want it to be. So what we have to do now is change the values for this one also. So going back, let me get the content for it. Control X and paste here. And lastly, this. So this will now be 03. And this should now be gaming growth instead of retro fix. So gaming, gaming, gaming growth. So I'm a little bit worried that there were no suggestions uh, from VS Code. Um, Usually, sometimes it shows that there was a typographical error. But let's check it out first. So probably my laptop was hanging at that point. Okay, yeah, this confirms it was hanging, and so I couldn't get that option. So let's see. Okay, so this shows perfectly. But what I want now is I need this to be horizontal instead of vertical, right? And just as we've done countless times here, all we have to do is to make the container holding this a flex box, and immediately that will be handled for us. And remember, container holding all of these is the main options. So it means in style.css, we'll make main options, main options to have a display of flex, which makes it horizontal. And now I want it to have a justified content of space between, because from the design, you can see that the spaces between the start and the end were put in between each of them. Okay, so with this, once I save my code and I check it, I now have everything arranged the way it should. So all that is remaining is this space, this here. There is no space here, but from our image, there is a space. So all I have to do is give main options a margin top of, let's say, 50 pixel, and I save. So with this now we have our space here for each of them. So I can now take down this remaining parts. These are supposed to be the contents I would use to fill in this with. So I'm not really taking it out for now. So with this, we now have our complete site. So all that remains is when I hover on this from our design, when I hover, I need the color to change back to red. So how do we do that? Remember, over here, we are setting the color here. So we'll now have to use our pseudo selector, which is options, details, A. Then we say on hover, we want to change the color to, I think we already used that color once. Yes, this color. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. So when I hover on that particular link, I expect the color to change, and it does. So when I hover on it now, it does. So right now, this doesn't link to anywhere because we didn't specify any link for it to go to. And so for now, it will just take us to the same page, which is not a problem for now. So this is all we have. But remember, this is for the desktop. For us to see what it looks like on mobile, we have to go again to our inspect, and let me quickly navigate to SE. So on SE, this is now what it looks like. Okay. So remember, all we have to do is change the arrangement, the flex direction from horizontal to column. So which means main options here, which is set at display flex. So over here, inside direction of column, on saving this, we now have them like have specified the height with. So to do that, we can easily just give this a gap of, let's say, 20 pixel. From our design, let's see if our design, the space was large. Okay, this looks, let's say 30 pixel should be fine. Or let's just leave it at 20 pixel. So when we save and we go back, you now see your site having those spaces, like it should, and looking exactly, if not exactly, close enough to what we have here on our Figma design. And this here is how you build a site from desktop down to mobile, and you term this to be responsive. But mind you, all we've done is make sure our site looks good on desktop view, which is from this screen side. Okay, so once I reduce this to um, this size, this size are what I would say is the size for most tablets, right? Tablets, iPads, and the rest of them. You can see it doesn't look good. The arrangements, they look like they are clustered. So it means for you to fix this, you have to create a media screen for this particular width. Okay, so you can see a media screen for maximum width of 1000 pixel, and then you write your styling to make it look good. You make your adjustments as much as you can, and uh, and then you move on. You keep inspecting each of the screen sizes to make sure they are okay. They are the way you want it to look. Because right now, the only time we have both screens are while when we are on this screen and when we are on this screen. Okay, so these are the only sites, only devices that our sites look good. So if you're able to do this, then congratulations. Um, this class. So if you have any questions, bring it up. We run over here because we are supposed to be rounding off with intermediate CSS and learning frameworks for CSS. This, which we will continue from tomorrow. So I would like to take any question if there is. If there isn't, Mr. Adesina, you can go with your with the small issue you're having on so we can fix it for round up for today. Okay. Okay. Okay, yes, Mr. Adesina, you can go on. I I can't hear you, and the screen I can see now is your Google Meet screen. So you can try to share your entire screen. So when you navigate to different screen, I can see. And also, I don't know if you're talking, but I can't hear you. Um, yeah, like you can stop your presentation, then try to present again. But when you're selecting um, options to share, select the entire screen. So whatever screen you go to, we can easily see. Okay. All right. So now we can go to your VS Code and let's see. Well, I can't. I still can't. I still can't hear you. But that's fine. Let me see your code. Okay. So this is the HTML code. Um, defining text. Okay. All right. So go to your CSS. Okay. So right now, you wrote defining text as if it is a tag on its own. So for it to show that it's a class, you have to put dots before the name of the class. So it has to be dots defining text. So yeah, so you can add dots to defining text. Add dots for yes. Okay, yes, dots. Do the same thing for the one down. Okay. So now whenever you change the width of defining text from 700 pixel, I'm sure the image will follow as well. So you can try to open your browser. Let's see if it's okay. So this is 700 pixel. Reduce the width from 700 pixel to 100 pixel. Okay, make sure you stay. Okay, so you can see it now that it is actually responding to whatever width you give to it. So now you can go back to your 700 pixel and but I think you image. This is the image we use for the mobile. It is not the image for desktop. So you can try to change the image by going back to your VS Code, your HTML. So yeah, for mobile, change it to desktop. I think it's image dash web 3 dash desktop. Yeah, that's the name of the image. So this the next one, image dot slash web. Yes. No, the next one, yes. Yes, yes. Yes, so that should be the name, image slash web slash 3 slash desktop. So that's what you should put in your HTML. You can see the option there already. So exactly. So refresh. Yeah, you can see the image. So you can now increase the width back to 700 pixel to use there. Okay. So just to let us know again, and very importantly, is that um if I try to carry out this project again, I would not be using the same method like I have used here. There would be there will be little changes because there is not one particular way of getting anything done in coding. All right. So the basic and recurring thing is that the principles, you understand the principles. Okay. So you just use them whenever I want to do something. So there are lots of ways we can make this site again without using current code that we have. And so when you're trying to do this on your own and you find out that your line of code is a little bit different from mine, you shouldn't panic or be worried. All right. So long as you're following the correct principles and theory, you would surely get there. Okay. That would be all for today. If there are no questions, I will see you all tomorrow as we round off with CSS in order to prepare for JavaScript, which is the actual programming language, which will be starting next. So if there is no question, um, Have a lovely evening and see you all tomorrow, same time.